the thrill of a World War II fighter plane at a rare war museum. A snowmobiling adventure leads to a relaxing lesson in history, and a new age of kites attracts the next generation of pilots.
Hello and welcome to Exploring Idaho. I'm Dee Sarton.
And I am just in heaven.
Aren't you, though?
This is one of my favorite places around. I'm Roland Barris. We're coming to you from the Warhawk Air Museum in Caldwell.
And for those of you who don't know, this museum contains one of the rarest collections in the country of warplanes and memorabilia.
There's this 1917 replica Fokker triplane flown in World War I. The plane was made famous by a German Baron Richthofen, who had a penchant for painting his triplane bright red, thus the nickname the Red Baron. This P-51 Mustang was the last of a string of World War II airplanes to fly the front lines. This one is under restoration here at the Warhawk Museum. And then there's this plane. For history buffs of World War II, it's considered a very important aircraft. It's called a Curtiss P-40, also known as a Tomahawk, a Warhawk, or a Kitty Hawk. And many people consider it to be the most important fighter aircraft of World War II.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
When Japanese bombs rained down on Pearl Harbor December 7th, 1941, the United States was caught off guard. 4 battleships were sunk, the U.S. naval and air bases suffered incredible destruction, and 2,400 Americans were killed. That terrible day, only a handful of U.S. fighter planes made it into the air to fight the Japanese. Several of those were Curtiss P-40s. According to war records, the Japanese lost 28 aircraft in the attack on Pearl Harbor. That would be just the beginning of a 4-year-long bloody battle spanning 5 continents. During that time, the P-40 would prove itself a formidable U.S. weapon and an important defender of American freedom. What do you remember about this plane in your days, the first day you got into the cockpit?
Well, I might, when I got out of flying school, it was just 5 days after Pearl Harbor. December 12, 1941.
Napa resident Carl Chase first piloted a P-40 Warhawk in a training run over the panhandle of North Idaho.
And they gave us a few hours instruction, just sitting around watching that thing. Then they took us out and showed us the plane and get in it and fly.
You just take off.
That's what you had to do.
After all, it was wartime. Carl was quickly shipped out to fight the Germans in the war front of North Africa. And in spite of some criticism that the P-40 was an outdated fighter plane before it ever rolled off the assembly line, Carl and hundreds of pilots like him developed great respect for the plane.
Oh, it was a rugged airplane. We flew those things off of dirt fields, and even one time we ran short of fuel and landed right on the desert, and then had to drain gas out of 2 planes so the other 2 could go back to our field when we found out where we were.
The P-40's firepower emanated from the wings, where 50 caliber machine guns were mounted 3 to a side. A quick squeeze on the stick would fire off 60 rounds per second, making the P-40 a dangerous weapon against enemy fighters. But it was probably the pilots that deserve most of the credit for the plane's wartime success.
These P-40s were made famous by the AVG, the American Volunteer Group, better known as the Flying Tigers, because in the early part of the war in the Pacific, the only good news we had came from the AVG, because they were the only ones that were really having any success against the Japanese.
Wartime news reports and films at home featured the shark-toothed grins of the P-40s, sparking a countrywide romance with the plane. A romance that continues today for people like John Paul. John has restored several World War II planes here at the Warhawk Museum, and the P-40 is one of his favorites.
They're just the ultimate in propeller-driven airplanes. They're the best this country could put forward.
But the P-40 was not without drawbacks. Narrow landing gear made the plane difficult to maneuver on the ground. A top speed of only 300 miles per hour made it comparatively sluggish in the air, and a small fuel capacity meant short missions, forcing a hit-and-run strategy in battle. By the end of World War II, the P-40 was surpassed by spectacular performances of newer fighter plane designs. Yet that was only after victory was assured. So the question of which fighter plane won the war remains open to debate. But one thing is certain, the P-40 and its daring pilots won the hearts of Americans.
They're just a really neat airplane.
Did you enjoy flying this plane?
I enjoyed flying it, yeah. I enjoyed flying it.
If the P-40 Warhawk was state-of-the-art at the beginning of World War II, it was the P-51 Mustang that controlled the skies at the end of the war. This particular model is under restoration right now, but it should be complete and ready to fly by the end of the year. Dee?
Well, Roland, I know you love the planes, but I'm kind of taken with all the sentimental memorabilia that you find here at the Warhawk Museum. Here's a good example. This entire wall is covered with sweetheart pillows. It was a tradition during World War II for servicemen to buy these pillows on their bases, or maybe make them, and then send them back home to their moms, their sisters, their girlfriends, or their wives. It was just one more way to stay connected with the reason they were fighting in the first place, for their loved ones back home. We'll have more from the Warhawk Museum when Exploring Idaho continues. Still ahead, these pilots don't need a license to enjoy the thrill of flight. And next, a snowmobile adventure leads to a relaxing surprise tucked away in the mountains of Idaho. Right about now, most of us are really starting to look forward to summer, but there are a select few who are hanging on to every last bit of winter. We're going to leave the Warhawk Museum for a couple of minutes and take you out near the town of McCall, where hanging on to winter means spring snowmobiling through lots of sunshine and fluffy powder. Today, we venture on a ride from the quaint mountain town of McCall into the old stage stop town of Burgdorf. It's a scenic ride with a relaxing surprise at our destination. Snowmobiling. It's a popular pastime around McCall. And as the days stretch longer into spring, it just means more time to ride.
I love it. It's beautiful up here and couldn't ask for a better day today.
Hundreds of miles of snowmobile trails wind through these parts, offering an endless variety of adventure. Today, a family reunion takes to the trails. Cousins, kids, and parents, they're on a spring snowmobile ride into one of Idaho's historic towns.
It's gorgeous, blue skies, and we always seem to have good weather when we come down here also. Sunshine and blue skies and lots of snow.
Janet and Ron Hutchinson and their kids are visiting from Spokane, Washington.
Every year, it's an annual trip, meet with cousins.
Cousin Leo Purcello is from San Diego.
The scenery is incredible. I mean, just these snowscape mountains and clear skies, and they're great people too.
On modern machines, the family travels back in time. The gateway is a stately old forest of lodgepole pine trees, accompanied by the bubbling meanderings of Summit Creek.
The snow on the trees and just the quiet of it all. The water that runs along the roadways. Just the peacefulness, being in the mountains.
Their destination 25 miles later is Burgdorf, Idaho, a rickety old ghost town that once thrived with the dreams of pioneers, gold prospectors, and the wild whimsy of the West.
It all started in 1862 when Fred Burgdorf came to this town and formed this town. This was a gold mining area, and so he entertained the miners.
Caretaker Ron Wallace says the old motel housed miners in a mine to strike it rich. The only north-south road brought pioneers and travelers on the stagecoach line, and every visitor was greeted with an unusual attraction, a geologic wonder that still impresses visitors today.
Phenomenon, it's incredible that this all happens naturally. Wish I could go in.
The large 50 by 75-foot hot springs pool features rustic log sides and a sand bottom. It's about 5 feet deep and is fed by a constant flow of 104-degree spring water.
Well, there's 19 different minerals in the water, all of which are good for you.
Legends go back as far as 2,000 years when these springs were neutral ground for several tribes of Native Americans. In the mid-1800s, whites came in and built up around the spring. Today, Burgdorf remains open to anyone in search of a relaxing soak with a view.
The water just kind of works at you and the heat of the water, so you just relax more and you feel better. Then you can go out and snowmobile some more.
A revitalizing stop on the trail of good snow in the mountains of Idaho's yesterdays. The great thing is, the mountains and Burgdorf Hot Spring remain here to enjoy today.
And it's kind of one of those little hidden away places that no one knows about, but it's a great time.
Now that's a great way to warm up at the end of a snow-covered trail, isn't it? And you may be interested to know that you can rent cabins year-round at Burgdorf. The restored cabins don't have any electricity, but lots of charm, and renters are allowed unlimited access to the hot spring. A nice bonus to an already interesting getaway. Roland?
Dee, there's plenty more to see here at the Warhawk Museum. Everything from these authentic World War II uniforms to this bomb site that was incredibly accurate for World War II. In fact, for the time, it was a quantum leap forward in technology and a secret that was as closely guarded as the recipe for the atomic bomb. But the Warhawk Museum is about more than just America. This case contains some very rare World War II Japanese memorabilia, including a pilot's hara-kiri knife. Suicide became a more regular part of the war for the Japanese, especially in the latter parts. That's when they came up with something called the kamikaze pilot. He would fly an airplane like this. It was essentially a flying bomb. The kamikaze would send it right into American ships, causing incredible devastation. They were desperate times for the Japanese, but eventually the United States would win out. Exploring Idaho, we'll be right back. Coming up next, a high adrenaline sport takes to the skies and across the desert. It's a new age of kites, next on Exploring Idaho. You know, it takes years of training and dedication to become a really accomplished pilot.
It really does, and only a few people achieve that distinction every year. But for the rest of us, the thrill of flight is not out of reach.
That's right. Exploring Idaho's Jennifer Eisenhart takes us to the Bruneau Sand Dunes, where a special group of landlocked pilots is reaching for the sky.
Dee and Roland, the Bruneau Sand Dunes south of Mountain Home are some of the tallest in America. It's the near constant winds here that whip up peaks to hundreds of feet. It's those same winds that are attracting a special kind of adventurer. They are the high adrenaline pilots of a new age of kites. They come with names like the Dragon, the Phoenix, and the Psycho. They maneuver on the wind with a flash of color, in designs that make rainbows look boring. And their speed, well, their speed is attracting a whole new age of pilots to a sport that was once considered mere child's play.
You guys ready to fly? Let's do it.
A sunny spring morning at the Bruneau Sand Dunes finds a group of grown adults anxious to fly their latest toys.
Is 7.2, its lows are 5, and its highs are up to 17.
A strong, steady wind is good luck for Carrie and Paul Laird.
Hold still, we're gonna unwind that when we walk it out.
The two not only fly kites, they build them. And today they plan to test some of their latest designs.
You ready? Okay. This is the best part, definitely, because you get to see what it looks like up in the sky. You get to see your masterpiece, and that it actually does fly.
And not just fly, these kites attack the sky. Modified from the traditional single-line style, modern kites maneuver quickly with the superior control of 2 lines. In the hands of an experienced operator, the kites perform dazzling stunts.
Coin toss. Perfect.
For the pilot who can perform a perfect coin toss, an axle, or a flawless flick-flack, stunts offer valuable kite boasting rights.
When the kite's in the sky, it's a direct reflection of what you're doing to the kite that's making it fly. You know, it's not all wind. You know, the wind doesn't make it do the loops and the spins and the axles and the coin tosses and things like that. It's control of the lines and paying attention to what's happening with the kite.
So what do I do here?
Just take your lines and pull them back, give them a good jerk so it fills the sail up.
Okay.
And then just, well, that was sort of a good jerk.
Not a real good jerk there.
Start with your hands out here farther, and then pull it back.
Even for the beginner, flying a kite with nothing more than the wind and your own 2 hands offers great satisfaction.
Just crank on one until it goes all the way around. There you go.
If only for a moment.
Whoa!
But once a person masters a 2-line kite, a world of options awaits. There are speedy stunt kites, graceful ballet kites, and stacking kites is a popular, although expensive, endeavor. Each colorful layer in this 4-kite stack runs about $150.
For the spectator, it looks awesome. It's really cool. And for the flyer, it just multiplies the amount of force that the wind really has. And that was a clean landing.
At the handles of some large kites, the force of the wind can defy gravity. And in this case, it's a good thing Eddie Petronek is not the kind of guy who needs solid grounding.
It's a really neat feeling.
His kite is 1/3 the size of a parasail. Coupled with this 3-wheeled buggy, Eddie can reach speeds in excess of 40 miles an hour.
Here we go. When you first go out, as soon as you go 20 miles an hour, that's the neatest feeling. You think you're going faster than anything else. But as you start setting new records and new speeds, it gets crazier and wilder and more fun. This is you against the wind, against the ground. I don't need to put gas in this, just feed myself and I can go all day.
And on a warm, windy day at the Bruneau Sand Dunes, anyone can enjoy the freedom, the excitement, and the challenge of this tug of war with the sky.
It's so much fun. It's a complete release. You can't concentrate on anything else because your kite won't fly.
From little tiny kids to people in their later years, everybody seems to be enjoying it.
Oh, it's fantastic. I love it. It's a lot of fun.
Kind of tricky, but it's a lot of fun. You don't have to be a little kid anymore to enjoy just getting outside and flying a kite.
Looks like fun, Jim, but it also looks kind of difficult. Is it hard to control those 2-line kites?
Well, it definitely is a little bit different. Most of us, when we were little kids, flew the 1-line kites, and these are 2-line kites where you're using both hands to maneuver the kite. But I've only been flying this one for about an hour, and I've picked it right up, and I've been able to fly it just fine, so it's a lot of fun.
All right, Jen, well, we'll let you get back to your kite. Thanks a lot. And now for our Idaho Puzzler. Who was the most famous celebrity to serve at Gowan Field in Boise during World War II? We'll have the answer for you when Exploring Idaho returns.
If you would like more information on any of the stories you've seen in our show today, call for a copy of the Exploring Idaho Field Notes. The field notes contain valuable information on who to contact, where to go, and how to get there. Best of all, Exploring Idaho Field Notes are absolutely free. So pick up the phone and dial 1-800-443-2461 to receive your copy of this month's Exploring Idaho Field Notes. Be sure to request the current show number.
And now for the answer to our Idaho puzzler. Movie star Lieutenant Jimmy Stewart served 6 months for duty as a flight training officer. By the time he left Gowan Field in August of 1943, he had been promoted to captain and was by far the most famous celebrity to have ever served there.
Well, it's really been a fun and interesting day here at the Warhawk Museum.
There is so much history jammed into this place, and we hope you've learned a few new things about World War II. We certainly encourage you to visit the museum in Caldwell.
And thanks for joining us on this edition of Exploring Idaho. We'll see you again next time.
From little tiny kids to people in their later years, everybody seems to be enjoying it.
It's real pretty out here. You know, you're away from the city. You don't have to hear cars going by or hearing ambulances or sirens, and you just get to fly and enjoy the scenery and enjoy what you do with your kite.
There we go. If you don't really want to get out and get all the fishing gear, you drop a little money, you buy a good kite, and you still get outdoors and you still get to breathe the fresh air instead of being inside all the time. And that's so essential. It really is.